Hello, hello. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well. Well, let me welcome everybody in before we get started. And just briefly, my name is Ebony Whitson. I am co founder of Blended Love, where me and my husband started this as a ministry to help other blended families. When we got married, he had two, I had three, and we had one more together, making us a pretty big blended family of six kids, two adults, and our challenges that we went through pushed us to search for answers and for assistance. And after finding that there wasn't much that existed, we created this platform to be able to help others. And today we are spotlighting on the fathers because it is Father's Day weekend. And so we are taking over the session today. Normally it's me and my husband, but today it's going to be me and Miss Lina. So we're going to dive into our conversation in just 1 second, but we are going to really just highlight how moms, stepmoms, bonus moms, wives, what we do to support the dads in these situations and what that looks like for our families. So I will turn it over to our guest, Miss Lena, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Of course. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Lina Shine, host of Stepmom Support Network, which is a part of the Stepparenting Network. And I can't wait to have this conversation.
So glad to have you today. And I know that well, I won't dive into it. I'm gonna let you dive into it. But one thing that I love to start with is your journey. So how did you become a part of the blended family dynamic?
Mhm. So I met my husband online, like most people. And when I did, we just hit it right off, like conversation wise. And interestingly, our conversations were not really focused on the lovey dovey stuff, like what did you eat today? What's your favorite color? It was more of questions like, do you think the freedom can exist without consequences? I said, sir,
Who talks about that on their first date?
yes. But it was so interesting that um, I love intellectual conversations. So, when every other possible match out there was talking about favorite color and what they like to do, he stood out. And I was drawn to the level of conversation. Fast forward, we had a great conversation and we looked at each other one day and we thought, gosh, like, I think this is it. I want to marry you, and that was pretty quickly. But yeah, we decided to come together and we formed our blended family.
And so who has the children in your household?
My husband has two children. I currently do not have any. We're praying to God to bless us in the very near future with our own children in between us.
Absolutely. We'll be touching and agreeing with you in that matter.
Amen.
So, in that, seeing as how he already had two kids, do you think that was why his questions were more direct, straight to the point, when you guys were dating?
I think sometimes when you possibly get into a relationship and it doesn't end or become the thing that you wanted, you tend to shift and pivot into a different angle and direction.
Mhm,
And so I think he may have had a different mindset when he possibly was getting into his previous marriage. But
mhm.
perhaps with the lessons he learned, he decided, I want to do things differently. I want to make sure we connect and it's not just the lovey dovey stuff. I
Yeah,
want to be a little bit more intentional and go deeper into seeing how she thinks.
absolutely. Absolutely. I know for us with the kids, like before we could even dive into even our kids, bringing the kids around, and our kids knew each other before we knew each other. So that's a whole nother part of the story. They went to school together. But even before just bringing everybody together, it was kind of like what are your values? What do you see for the future, and what does that look like for you? And those came, early on in the conversation. I think your favorite color and your favorite food are for, high school, college, early relationships. And I think the family dynamic makes you mature more as far as what you're looking for. And especially when you have, had a divorce, then it's kind of like, I can't do that again. And we highly value marriage. I know you do as well. And so you don't want to keep getting married and keep getting married and you want it to be, this is it, and it's going to last. Um, how do you feel some of those questions that you guys asked, and even just some of the things that you formed during your dating period, how have those helped with your foundation now as you come together as a family?
I think it built a very strong foundation of trust and reliability in the sense that I knew what was important to him
Mhm.
just right off the bat. It wasn't just we like doing the same things. And so we're going to take walks, and that's amazing. And that's all that we do. And then find out, okay, I don't like the way he's raising his children. I knew that raising his kids in a certain way meant something to him. I
Mhm.
knew that faith meant something to him. And so there was this level of trust because we had the shared values. And fast forward, in marriage, sometimes you may have disagreements, you may have like moments where you don't necessarily like each other. And in my case, it's not a lot, but when it happens, that shared value becomes the
Mhm.
center or foundation that pulls you together back to each other because you know that this is my person. Like this, we just share this thing that is centered to both of us individually. And so together, it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. So you guys met online. I feel like you have to be in a sort of mindset in general to be like, I'm going to go online and I'm going to trust this process, and I'm going to use this to meet my person. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Well, first of all, I never went anywhere. Like I don't go out. So I have to meet somebody somehow.
Yeah.
Like I'm a homebody. I love my space, just
Mhm.
chilling. And so I wasn't going to be at a party or like a bar. So I except maybe I went to the gym, I wouldn't meet anyone anywhere. And I worked remotely at that time too. So that narrows it all the way down. So I was put into a situation where I knew I had to at least get to talk to people
Mhm.
and then see. And interestingly, at the time when we met, I was just trying to feel different people out and just have conversations because
Mhm.
I had gone through that phase where I would meet someone and have an instant connection and get all excited. And third day, he just says something and it just phases, the connection just phases. And I
Oh,
realized I don't like
wow.
him anymore. Then I'm like, oh, now I got to start all over again. So I was tired. And I
Yeah.
said, you know what? I'm giving this one more try, 1 month, that's it. And
Mhm.
if it doesn't work, cool. I'll just take my time, take a break from it. And it happened to work. So,
I love that. I always tell my husband, we've been together so long. I don't want to get to know anybody else. I don't
girl,
want to get to learn anybody else. Like,
no.
it doesn't matter what comes at this point. We're gonna work it out because this is it. I
Mhm.
know him like the back of my hand, so I don't want to give that up. I think there's a peace in that, in knowing who you're with and knowing how they operate and how that works with you. That's just the blessing of marriage in general, is
Yes.
that relationship. And that's what love really is loving someone, no matter what, flaws and all. That's how you love someone. So,
Yes.
and there's so many different superficial definitions to relationships, and I feel that's why, you know, we can have some of these instances where things don't work out. But even in those situations, children may come. And so now you have a relationship that did not work out, but now you have these beautiful babies that, we got to love and support, and obviously now have a larger community. So what does that look like for you as far as how you do raise your kids together?
Yeah, it's we tend to define it along the way just
Mhm.
because Raising children in a traditional family, husband, wife, children, is
Mhm.
very different from how you tend to or can raise kids in a blended family.
Mhm.
So in my instance, we don't have our ours baby between us yet. And
Mhm.
so it's just the stepchildren and they have their mother. And so there isn't much really, especially now being that they're teenagers. And so
Mhm.
they're more grown. The level of support, the level of parenting kind of looks a little bit different. I
Yeah.
tend to go more of the model auntie type of parent where I
Mhm.
do not necessarily direct parent and I parent through my husband.
Okay.
Now, having the shared values make a huge difference because most of the time, although we have different personalities and I'm more of the say it as it is kind of person and he is
Yes.
more of the softer spoken, indirect, soft landing. And so he may say it differently, but the meat of the entire conversation is the same thing, or the
Mhm.
direction will go the same way. So I just let him do what he needs to do. Now,
Okay.
on the side of things, the support that I give him would be maybe he would ask me, what do I think? Or I
Okay.
just come in with a suggestion. Hey, I think this and this might be helpful, or I thought about this and this. But it's always me telling him and then he relays, he's the direct person who does the this is what we're going to do or this is what I want you to do directly with the children. So that's
Okay.
how our dynamic works.
I love that. And then just and I always say yours because yes, you are the bonus mom, you are a stepmom, but when you look at it, when you married him, those became your babies too,
Yeah.
and I don't think people realize that like I wouldn't have just been like yes to you and no to the kids. No, this is all of us.
Hmm.
So that's what I meant in that sense. But I love the way that you kind of support him on the back end and give him, kind of monitor that his parenting style, like monitor the things that you look at it and like, I think you're missing this, or I think you could do it this way. Like you come along with such grace. How did you come to find like this is what's going to work best when it comes to supporting his parenting methods?
Trial and error. That's what it is, girl. I tried it some way, it did not work. So I'll give you an example. When I
Mhm.
first came into my blended family, I realized right off the bat, oh my gosh, like these kids kind of need some support in some areas. And me being a woman, sometimes you get to see it on more of the nurturing side, maybe on the grooming side, maybe on
Mhm.
the social side versus, hey, I just finished, like I came home from work. Have you guys eating? How was your day? Good. We're just chilling. So I
Teenagers.
saw the details, yes, the detailed things that were missing. And
Mhm.
I thought to myself, gosh, I want to help. I want to be able to help them. I want them to have a resource that they can rely on. But I realized that direct parenting, my
Mhm.
specific stepchildren, did
Mhm.
not go the way I thought it would. Now,
Okay.
I say my specific stepchildren because every child is different.
Right.
Every blended family is different. Every dynamic is different. What I did didn't work for me, but it could work for you. And
Okay.
what works for me now probably might not work for you. And
Mhm.
so I did trial and error. I direct parented more of the teaching.
Okay.
And I realized that one of them was more opposed to it than the other. And
Okay.
so I received the usual, like resistance of stepkids, especially when they wouldn't say it out loud. And my stepkids are amazing. They're not
Mhm.
disrespectful. So they wouldn't say it out loud like you're not my mom, but you can tell
Mhm.
there is a resistance because why are you
Yeah.
teaching me all of this?
Absolutely.
And so I did the trial and error, and with time, I found my rhythm.
Okay. I love that. And I think like, okay, so wait, how old are the babies? Because I want to give people a perspective.
Yes, 16 and 13.
Okay. So we've got that good tender age of I think I know it all now. I'm good. I don't need parenting. So
Yeah,
even outside of being a bonus mom and a stepmom, they're still even like that with dad, I'm sure. And with their mom, it's like, I think we're good. I don't, I've arrived. Like, and you are
yeah.
there yet. But it's so you have those challenges of that coming to within themselves, and then you're also coming together as a family. How do you mitigate some of those? I know you said you can kind of feel it. How do you mitigate some of those issues where you kind of look and go, okay, yeah, this is not going a different way, or I'm going to step back and just talk to dad and see how we can you know resolve this. How do you deal with some of those issues that do come up with the teens?
Mm. I have a good example for you. So
Okay.
one day, that was back in the day where I was more so doing direct teaching, and I
Hmm.
was talking to my stepson, who was not a teen yet, but acted like a teen. And we were talking, and I was just teaching him about organization and organizational skills. And sometimes boys are more late to the game when it comes to being
Mhm.
tidy and all of that. So I was
Mhm.
talking to him about it. And he looks at me and he says, "Sometimes you teach me things that I don't need to learn." And I said, "Oh, okay." And so we're having this conversation. We're going. I'm just teaching him. And I get very passionate because I love them, but he's not getting it. And I don't know what language to speak for him to get it. And
Yeah.
I'm all like passionate about it. And he goes, he's flustered at this point, by the way, frustrated because why are we talking about this? I could just be doing
Right.
something else. And then he goes, you know, sometimes I feel like it's hard to love you.
Oh,
And interestingly, at that day, we were standing in the kitchen, and dad had called me because dad and I normally will like talk right after work into his
yeah.
driving back home. So we're just chatting. So I think I muted him, or maybe I let him stay, but he didn't say a word because he knows I got this.
Yeah.
So I told him, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way." This is my genuine reaction
Okay.
and truly how I felt. I said, "I'm sorry you feel that way, but I want to release you off of that feeling because truthfully, you don't have to love me. So if you're struggling to love me, let
Wow.
it go. Don't struggle. I
Huh.
want to give you the peace so you don't struggle to love me."
Wow.
And I told him, love was never a requirement when I entered this blended family. I don't
Mhm.
expect you to love me. Respect, however, is something I demand of you. And I asked him, "Do you know why?" And he said, "No." And I said, "It's because I respect you. So even though I love you, I don't
Mhm.
require you to love me back. But I
Absolutely.
respect you. So I expect that back." And his face, oh my God. He was
Because
shocked.
I'm like, what? That's a good perspective. It's like, no, I'm not asking for you to feel anything for me in return, and that's
No.
really taking that weight off of him.
Yeah.
Like,
And of me.
yeah.
Because truthfully, he was shocked. And I think the purpose, and he would be the best person to say this, to tell us like what the purpose really is. But I thought
Mhm.
the purpose then was so I could just stop talking.
Mhm.
Because why am I talking so much? And so he realized that he could not hurt me. You can't use the words to hurt me. And
Yeah.
that is the position of power over myself and over my feelings that I decided that from the get go. If I don't expect them to love me, then if you
Mhm.
don't, I don't get hurt by it.
Mm. That's a good position to be in. And I think, like, I never thought about it that way myself, you know? It's more so, well, why don't they love me back? Like, I felt like, with me having, and I guess it's because I had kids, so it's like, my kids are here, they love me, like, so his kids are here, I want them to love me too, like, so we all love each other, and I didn't want it to be, I felt like that would make it odd, but giving that perspective, that's more of like, hey, we can all just be together. It's not required that you love me, but we will all respect each other in
Yeah.
here. So that is, well, mine are in their 20s now, but that, that would be, that's an amazing way to look at it. And it does give such a release of, we're good, And I'm
Mhm.
wondering too, for moms out there that are listening, and it's like, oh, I love that, like, you're having that aha moment like I'm having, how to do that too. Like, if you do have children, what does that look like? You say, well, yes, my kids love me, but no, they don't have to love me. I think that would even take the pressure off of them. You know, like I can continue loving my kids, they can continue loving me back, and I can still continue love his kids. And however that goes, it's fine, you know? And just looking to explain that to my kids, like it's okay, you know? And I think our biggest issue was always, you know, how they felt about me. We were always battling, like, you know, trying to bond with his son or trying to bond with his daughter. You know, it was like so important to me. But that would have really released a lot of tension if I would have just said that's not required. Like I'm still gonna do what I gotta do, but that's not a requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, I still think about like how do I come across to them? Do I show them
Mhm.
affection more enough? I still want to bond with them.
Mhm.
But I realized that their specific background and experience was so volatile and so bad that I
Yeah.
needed to give them breathing room. I needed to release them off of that pressure. It helped with loyalty binds, but they still had loyalty binds and probably still have it. I think it's better
Mhm.
now, but who like when you think about it, Lena's just doing her thing. She's
Yeah.
doing things for you, but she doesn't expect anything back. So why are you having loyalty binds? If you love your mom, that's it. Like,
Exactly.
don't worry about me, I'm good. Now, that doesn't, and I know it sounds almost kind of like, gosh, so you mean you don't want them to love you? Of course I do. I want them
Mhm.
to love me. But interestingly, it shifted. So a month ago, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, we were having a conversation and he had a tone. And I'm very big on tone. Like I told you, respect is important to me,
Mhm.
especially with them. And so he said something and he said, just whatever, whatever. I don't remember what it is. Doesn't matter today. So
Yeah. All you heard
um,
was the tone. Like we're not that's not
yeah.
what we're gonna do.
And so I said, hey, I didn't appreciate your tone. I just want you to know that it was a tad
Mhm.
bit disrespectful. And then his face fell. He said, oh, I didn't mean to be disrespectful. I just said what came like in my head, just as it came
Mhm.
to my head. And I said, I know.
Mhm.
I know. And it's interesting. Most of these conversations happen in the kitchen. But anyway, I know you mean to be disrespectful. That's why I'm telling you. He said,
Mhm.
okay. And so I walk back and forth as I'm making food, and he goes like, I just want you to know that I love you as much as I respect you. I respect you as much as I love you. And I said, well, that concerns me because to me, I never really measure how much they love me because
Yeah.
it has never been an expectation. So it's not really in my mind, but I don't expect it. So if you say that you respect me as much as you love me, that means if you love me less, then you respect me less. So that concerns me because I need the respect.
Yeah.
Um, and he goes, oh, don't worry. I love you very much. Same kid,
Wow.
years later.
I love that. And you gave it that time to
Yes,
nurture that, to get to that moment. I love that. And I'm sure that that makes it easier, not necessarily easier, I don't wanna use that word. I'm sure it makes things flow much better when it comes to operating as a family unit, knowing that you guys have that love and respect for each other,
yes,
unconditional love. And the path that you took to get there, just I'm still gonna be here and do what I need to do. Just knowing that he had someone else in his corner, you know, that was there to support him, and it wasn't a requirement, like, "You don't have to do anything for me, like, I am here." I think that too probably did something for him as well. It was like, "Wow," you know,
yeah,
this doesn't compromise anything." And I love that you mentioned too, like, you're not being disloyal to mom by, having that love and respect for me. Now on the other end, sometimes it can still be taught by the bio parent that you can't, you know, honor your step parent, you can't love your step parent, and they're the reason why we have issues, and so much stuff is kind of like embedded into a child's mind. But on that end, on that front end, when you continue to be persistent, consistent with how you are with them, what you do with for them, you know, and just being present in their lives, eventually those things can't stand, you know, and it's like I see Miss Lena for who she is, and I do love her and I respect her. So I'm definitely loving that journey. Absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about, I want to dive more deep into how you are there for your husband, because absolutely this is Father's Day weekend. And we know um, our position as the bonus mom and the stepmom is very unique because it's in our nature to love and to nurture and to care. And we see babies and we're like, give me the give me the children, but it's very different. So I love how your approach is more behind the scenes, and I just want to dive a little bit deeper into that as far as how you guys operate as a unit in general, with the children, and how you operate together as far as communicating with their mom as well.
Hmm. Oh gosh, great question. Um, no family dynamic is perfect, and so
Hmm.
I hope what I'm saying doesn't portray it as we've gotten it figured out, because every single day we're figuring it out. I think
Absolutely.
that a lot of stepmoms would agree and say that most of the times the disagreements that we have as stepmoms, or even the parents in the blended family, are
Hmm.
mostly about the children and the dynamic as a whole.
Hmm.
And so we normally, what I would do, again, I'm my husband's biggest supporter. He is literally my best friend. And we talk and chat and play a lot. And so I think what I have done is just really being open with him about my feelings. So for example, if because my heart is not made of steel, when the kids
Hmm.
hurt me, I go to him and I talk to him about it. I say, hey, this is what happened, and I'm hurt by this situation.
Hmm.
And then I just either like vent or just share with him how I feel. And he also gives me feedback, or he just listens. And so over time, that has opened the door for him to also share his thoughts, his struggles. Because a lot of times, what happens is that men tend to hold back a lot.
Absolutely.
They might
Absolutely.
not want to burden you because you're the stepmom, you're going through a lot. But the truth is, they're in a very unique situation where they have
Hmm.
to hold everyone together.
Hmm.
They're the glue that kind of like meshes the whole blended family.
Hmm.
Without them, there is no you and the kids. Without them, there's no kids and you.
Hmm.
And then the biological mom is an added complexity, having to manage all of that. So having that, I am vulnerable to you first in my situation where I'm sharing my fears, my innermost thoughts, but it's also embedded on the fact that we're truly friends.
Hmm.
And so we're talking about things, we're talking about our fears for the future with the step children in my case, or he's talking about the dynamic of, okay, if when we have our baby, how
Hmm.
will we handle everything? How will
Yes.
the kids feel? We have to still make sure that we're giving them love so that they don't feel the separation. We talk
Mhm.
about all of it, and we don't always agree on all of it, as normal couples don't as well. But what we do, what we do is just iron it out. And sometimes we just have to suspend the conversation till later, because I can change my mind and he can as well.
Okay.
And so just that friendship and being his support system, it has been huge for me. Um, and then your question about how we kind of factor in biomom, was
Yeah.
that the second part?
Yeah.
Mm. So for that, what I decided to do, and I think I would have done this regardless of how the dynamic played out, whether it was high conflict or not.
Mhm.
But I'm so glad that I set a boundary, and my boundary, which has been non-negotiable, is no contact with biomom. I
Okay.
simplified it from the very beginning.
For him or for you?
Oh, for me.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. But in the end, it became for him, in the sense that because I did not engage with Biomom, she could not affect me.
Okay.
And so I'm not stressed, but he gets stressed,
Yeah.
because when it comes to co-parenting, you cannot avoid, as much as you dislike the person, you cannot avoid
Mhm.
the person. You
Mhm.
have to meet somewhere in the middle. You have to communicate somehow. And so when he comes back from the war, which I call it, because when in a high conflict situation, Sometimes it feels like he just went to war and came back and he's all tired and stressed and doesn't know what to do. And it's like, oh my goodness. Then
Mhm.
I become the stable center because I'm not stressed with her and I soothe him down.
Okay.
And so even though the situations sometimes they're crazy and like, how is this even a thing?
Yeah.
How are people thinking this way? How is this real?
Yeah.
But even though it's crazy, it doesn't hit me as much as it hit him because he's the one who went to the war. So then I try to soothe him down and become his
You get to
peace
be his peace.
so
Yeah.
he can breathe again.
Yeah. I love that. That support is needed. I didn't I didn't set that boundary because I wanted to be the friend. I felt like we should all communicate, and I
Hmm.
was wrong. It's a lot different now, but in the beginning, boy, that separation would have been very helpful, so that I could step back and see things. But I think that my husband was in such a predicament that he felt obligated to do certain things that I was like, that's not a requirement for you, even though they're your kid's mom. That's not a requirement for you. That doesn't pertain to the child. You don't have to do that, and then it became an issue of I was kind of interrupting the system they had of using him and dangling the kids over him. Well, if you do this and you can have them for the weekend, or do that, and I was just like, no, absolutely not. Like, that's not your friend. That's you guys are co-parents, and that's it. And that's kind of what amplified things, I think, for us, because I was just like, marriage is different. I don't know what happened between you guys. And I'm like, that's not a concern for me because it's over. What concerns me is that I think you guys don't have healthy boundaries as co-parents. Um, just because you have a child with someone doesn't mean that you get to demand things from them. They're still a person, and the respect wasn't there for him as a person. And the way that he was being talked to was not okay with me, so I would often step in, which you know elevated things. So now we're
Hmm.
both heated, and I'm just like, oh, I can't believe she did this, and he's like, I can't believe, well, welcome to my world, and I'm like, oh, so it didn't give either one of us peace for in the beginning, until we kind of got together and decided, okay, we need a healthier way to deal with these situations, because we can't keep arguing back and forth. Everybody wants their way, but at the end of the day, what's best for the kids? What's going to work best for the kids? What's going to give them what they need the most from all parents, involved? And how can we kind of lower this conflict down? Another thing I did do was give him the rights to talk to the fathers of my children. So I'm kind of like out the picture on that end. I
Oh.
don't have any communication anymore. And I don't, um, when they were growing up, and now I just have my son, and so it's the only parent that we still have to deal with, because he's the only one left at home. Once the kids do, get older, they can deal with their parents on their own. So we really, really shouldn't be contacting me unless it's an emergency, or
Hmm.
something like that, or they're getting married and you need to come. Be That's where we are. At
Yeah.
this point with some of them, but I turned that over to him, and it just really, like, it gave him peace, like, because of what he was dealing with. It wasn't really necessary for me to talk to them, honestly. The conversations would get a little raunchy, and you don't remember me, and no, and I don't really care,
Yeah.
like, come get your kid, that's just it helped to create a line that they couldn't cross with me. So that was kind of like my answer as to seeing what he was going through. I was like, you know what? I don't mind. I'm like, from now on, call my husband when you come to pick up. Talk to him when you want to arrange anything. You really don't need to talk to me anymore. And it was
Mhm.
very shocking to them as to, like, oh, like, yeah, I trust him with all of that. And I know he can handle that. And it got to the point where now, like, he can talk to him. They have friendly conversations. They go over everything, go over school, what's updates. And I'm just so, like, you know,
That is beautiful. That's smart, actually. Like, I think if every woman in the dynamic like
Mm,
yours can do that, it would give the husband a lot of peace.
yes.
And it would also reduce the friction that comes with the father's child and the level of communication and
Mhm.
all of that.
Oh yeah. It gives the men time to be men, you know, together.
Hmm.
So it was always a man to man, you know, never go through me. And like I said, it kind of especially with us being newlyweds, it was like, "Oh, you didn't marry the right person." Like, "Yes, I did. I did." You know, it's like, "Well, if you're ever unhappy," you know, it limited a lot of those things too.
Hmm.
I'm not ever going to be ever unhappy again.
Hmm.
So let's just keep it focused on the kids. And
Yeah.
I highly doubt you were going to say that to him. You know,
Oh, yeah.
you so that like I even like for a while stopped coming to the door, and I would just schedule everything where he would come to the door. You don't even see
Um,
me, so you can do and that just cut a lot of that out. We're not even going to go there.
I love that. I think it also gives an elevation to his authority.
Hmm.
Although, yes, he's not the one that gave birth to the child, but then he remains the man of the house. And that
Absolutely.
is a level of respect you give him, and also an elevation of what the authority looks like to the father of the children, knowing
Hmm.
that he's the man of the house, do not cross a line.
Yep. Yep, and that's what we want, and I believe, like, in kingdom order still, even in a blended family, husband's always the head, and
Yes.
so we didn't know what that was supposed to look like because there's no there's no biblical form of a blended family, obviously,
Mhm.
um, but just knowing kind of what way can I still honor him. I was like, I gotta take my hands off. And it was comfortable in a way that I didn't have to deal with some of the issues, but it was still uncomfortable in where I'm not driving this anymore.
Mhm.
I don't have control over this anymore. I don't know what's gonna happen. So there were some issues at first, but like I said, now it's like, "Hey, where's Alan?" "Oh." All right then. So I love it. And I've come to so much better terms, with the mothers of my beautiful bonus kids. So we can talk, we can communicate, and the conversations they have with him are more respectful and honorable. But those things take time, and there is no perfect solution. Sometimes for families out there, you may not be able to turn over that communication, to your spouse. You got to be in a certain frame of mind to say, this is going to be now on you, and your spouse has to be ready for that too.
Mhm.
My husband loves to lead, so that was just like another thing, like, here, you can lead this. Like, he loves to lead. It's in him. He was born with it. I think he came out with a clipboard telling the nurses what to do. Like, he loves to lead. So it's like it was a no-brainer, but you have to really feel your spouse out and say, how do you feel about this? Are you comfortable with this? I think this will work. And I know, like, you want to set your boundaries, but I think one day you will have to come forward and be present and see if that helps to be that barrier, between your husband and the mother of his children, to say, "Hey, what time would you like to stop by?"
I don't I don't think that would ever happen, especially in my case. We have the kids full time. That's one.
Ah,
So
okay.
maybe if that changes, that is a different conversation. But
Yeah.
by that time, hopefully the kids are driving themselves, going back
Right.
and forth, dealing with the parents separately,
Yes.
and I'm not in the picture.
And the
So,
older they get, that does happen. Like, it
yes.
just, like I said, it just becomes more irrelevant. It's like, it's got to be urgent for me to be talking to you at this
Yes.
point because they have their own phones, they have their own lives. Why are you not calling them?
Yes. If they're not picking up, I can't force that.
I can't. They're in their 20s. What do you want me to do?
Hmm.
Give them time. So it definitely comes to that. And again, that is a whole nother level and of peace and calmness in your family too when they do get to that age. The kids don't stop needing you, but that calms down all of that back and forth, and that goes away because what we're not, we're done, kids are raised, they're in college,
Mhm.
they've graduated college, all of that. It is now whatever kind of relationship you would like to have with your child, by all means, so that's not for us to intervene. So it does become, and we hear about it, like, I talked to my dad. Oh, really? Like, okay, how'd that go? Like, oh, well, so, well, we did this, we did that. I'm like, okay, cool,
Mm.
all righty then, that's pretty much, and that becomes the end of it. So it does get to that point. So I love it. um
So are you saying that it gets easier
I
at
don't like to
some
use the word
point?
easy because there's nothing about this that's easy. But it flows better. It flows better. It really does. And older children, um, like, we don't believe in 18. Older children still need you 18, 21, 25, 30, 35. We don't have a
Mhm.
35-year-old, but I'm just saying. Um, they still need you.
Mhm.
So they're still gonna need their parents. But the way that takes place does flow a lot better. And
Mhm.
then you come to where now the communication is just back focused with you and your spouse. Now we're talking, and we're not necessarily talking about what's going on here, what's going on there. We're just talking about us and our household, and
Mhm.
and how we're flowing, and that becomes so much better. You
Yeah.
get to enjoy, you've gone through the fire, you guys are refined, and you get to enjoy where you are at that end point. It's
Yes.
definitely not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of work, but when you get to that point, you're going to look back and be like, wow, we really did it. We
Mhm.
got through that. So, but look, this is not about my story. I can go off on a tangent. One thing I really like to do, I always like to ask the guests to share one of your greatest triumphs and one of your greatest challenges with our audience.
Okay. That's a good question. I think so. I'll start with the challenge, which led into the triumph or the lesson.
Okay.
Um, well, I think when I first came into my blended family, like I said, I noticed like, oh my gosh, the kids need a lot more help in certain areas, and so I just
Mhm.
started to get more direct and teach. And I experienced a lot of resistance from
Mhm.
them, both in different ways.
Mhm.
But also, we had, and I'm going to say had because we've risen above it, my husband and I, we had a very high conflict situation going on. And so um, it was stressful. I had a bubble that I lived in. I was just like chilling. My life was easy. First of all, I'm the kind of person that if you're my friend and you're going to bring complication to my life, let's just say you're my friend, but you're always drunk and maybe
Oh.
you do stupid things and now I have to help you fix it. You're not, we're done.
Mhm.
I'm the kind of person who will cut off someone quickly if you're going to complicate my life in a way that does not serve me.
Mhm.
But I also go hard for my friends. And so I'm picky. So I choose my friends very carefully because if I'm going to go hard for you, we have to have shared values. I should trust you're not going to make a fool of yourself and of me.
Absolutely.
So it's a bubble that I created for myself that I loved and enjoyed. And I come into a blended family where I have less control and things just come at you.
Yeah.
Plus, it was very, very high conflict.
Mhm.
Now, I say it was very high conflict because the high conflict has not changed,
Okay.
but our reaction to it has changed. And that
I
is
love
what
that.
makes a big difference in how we feel, how we grow, how we live life now. And so it got to a time where I mean, the kids are great. They still were managing their own complexity and all of that.
Mhm.
Um, but mom is very high conflict in every kind of way. And
Okay.
so she would try to shake our house up from afar. with all kinds of things. Now, the thing with a high conflict co parent is that if they realize they cannot manipulate you
Mhm.
physically or emotionally, they will try to take your time.
Mm.
And what I mean by time is they will text you 20 messages in a day. They
Mhm.
will accuse you of all manner of things. Now, you have to take the time out of your busy schedule or your family life to try and defend yourself.
Yeah.
And so they will try to take your time. And in the beginning, like I said, I was no contact from beginning, but I
Mhm.
get to see everything. I get to see the messages that come through, the accusations that come through, the accusations of neglect or abuse that never happened. Kid
Yeah.
is saying never happened. We know never happened, but then insinuating things and saying
Yeah.
things that are just untrue. Now, coming from the bubble, that's why I wanted to preface with that, where I have my peace at 100, but now my battery is running on 5% because I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
That was my biggest challenge because I no longer had the peace that I so genuinely value and
Mhm.
love. And my home was being shaken up by someone else who did not live in it.
Yeah.
And so that went on for a while. And a select few of my friends who understood the complexity knew about it. It came to a point where I wore it on my face. I wore
Yeah.
the stress on my face, on my body was highly inflamed. I was just generally not happy and I
Yeah.
was stressed. And I
Mhm.
never had gray hair before I got married, but now I saw a few of them growing. I'm like, where is this coming from? And so it took me a while, but one day I had conversation with my best friend. She's like, girl, like, I see the look on your face and
Mhm.
we've got to do something about it. Now, being a woman of faith, I talk to God, I pray. And so I did a lot of prayer, but I also did a lot of reflection and a lot of work on myself. All of this happened quickly, but not
Mhm.
so quickly. I'm talking like in a span of a year and a half, where
Okay.
it got so bad that it was so bad. And then I had to work on it so much because I needed space to breathe. And it felt literally like you're drowning in a pool, but you don't know how to swim. And
Mm.
so it's either you're going to die, you have two options. You're going to die in the pool, or this is your chance to learn how to swim and get
Yeah.
out. And so I decided to learn how to swim and get out. I decided to do some identity work. I had to work on who am I? What am I about? Outside of the family,
Yeah.
outside of being a stepmom, outside of being a wife, who is she? Who is Lina? And I had to center myself and dig deep into knowing who I am and who I am in God as well, because that's something you cannot take away from me.
Mhm.
And so having that center and the refine, it was almost like the torchlight was now on me. And when the torchlight is on me or the spotlight is on me, what it means is I'm able to see my insecurities. I'm able to see my fears. All of those things were highlighted.
Mhm.
I'm able to see the things I need to work on and the things that I'm not too good at or the things I'm good at. And so I had to do a lot of inner work and self work while still managing the complexity in my home and still being present in every other area of my life. And I got to a point where after I had worked on my identity or who I am, when complexity came, it did not affect me. And how that shifted was, for example, there is a message of the most outrageous thing on earth. Anything you can imagine to be outrageous, it fit the category.
I can only imagine.
And you're like, what?
Yeah.
It's different when someone just
Whatever's
blurts
hurtful.
something out.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I said whatever's hurtful sometimes it
Yeah.
seems like however I can hurt you. It's like,
Yes.
why would you even say that? So,
Yes. And it's different when someone blurts something out and just or realize the person just mentioned their thoughts. But to take
mhm.
a phone and then write the words that are coming out, there's a level of I'm checking back to read and make sure it makes sense before I send. But you still sent it anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there is a message that comes out and my husband shows it to me and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I walked away and it didn't stick. I didn't think about it all day.
Mm.
I went to bed without thinking about it, and I realized, wow, I've changed. This new
Mhm.
version of Lena is someone you cannot bring down anymore. I've worked on myself. And
Yeah.
that is what I wish for every stepmom, especially one that is going through a very stressful, high conflict co parent relationship. Because a lot of times it's having the stepchildren is not the difficulty itself. It's the
Mhm.
co-parenting dynamic. It is how the mom feels and how she's trying to shake up your home and
Yeah.
how it's affecting the children with loyalty binds because I love mom, but I also love dad. And I
Yeah.
kind of like my stepmom. So that's the whole thing. But if you're able to work on that identity and be able to reposition yourself in a way that works best for you, which
Mhm.
I did, you come out, it's almost like peace, but still in the middle of chaos,
Yeah.
but it's still peace.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And we think we've worked on ourselves when we're by ourselves and we're like, "Oh, I'm good." Like you said, "I'm in my bubble. I'm good. Things are good." But I think the greatest thing, and that's why we're built for relationships, whether it's a friendship or marriage, those relationships sharpen us. So if those situations didn't come along, you wouldn't be asking, "Okay, what do I need to do? What is wrong with me? What is right with me? Who am I?" You never questioned that before. Um,
Yeah.
and so that brought that out of you. And honestly, those things just make us better. We can't look
Mhm.
at that as like, oh, that's so bad. I'm so, those situations come in and it just make us stronger. And so if anything, all that person did was push us into our better selves.
Mhm.
Your drama, your high conflict just, made me, get down and pray even harder and push me to become who I needed to be that I didn't even know I had the capacity to be. And now look at who you are today.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a beautiful testimony of, take those storms, take those trials and use them to their advantage because all things always work out for our good all the
Amen.
time. So I know that was your greatest challenge. Was that your greatest victory as well?
Yes, it was.
Amen. All right. All right. I love it. So if you could, I want you to leave us with one thing that you would have told yourself before you got married that you would love to leave with our listeners today.
Um, okay. That's a good question. I think wait, let me clarify here. Is it a question that is it something I would tell myself?
Tell yourself going into a blended family. So this
Okay.
is geared towards blended families. So and it's just little nuggets. So I love to leave little tips along the way. It's like something you would have known, before going in, like just that one thing that would have been helpful that now you didn't do then, but if I could, this is the one thing that I would have done.
Okay. So here's what I would say to the version of myself that was starting my blended family. I would say a few things here. First off, I want to validate you, who
Mm,
you are, where you're going, but also what you've been through. And I want you to understand that you matter. You're worth it. You're amazing. Now, this journey will teach you a lot of things. It might highlight a lot of who you are to you, but there is so much growth and there is so much beauty that will come out of it. I also want you to know that it's important for you to prioritize the reason you entered into your blended family in the first place. So that no matter how much your boat is rocked, no matter how much storms or how many storms come your way, center your marriage as the most important thing and let everything else rotate around it. Between you and your husband, join a join into a very um, tight net such that nothing can destruct it. Because if that foundation, that core becomes the very thing that is strong, it holds everything together. It holds the children together. So the kids, although some people might be mad about this, but the kids are not the most important thing in your blended family. You
I
and your
totally
husband
agree.
are. And if you're a person of faith, God is the center of it.
Hmm.
And so maintain that, prioritize that, feed that, pour into that, and everything else will be okay.
I love it. Absolutely beautiful and encouraging. You dropped a lot of nuggets today, a lot of points that I think we all can take as wives and as stepmoms. And I thank you so much for sharing today. I think we all can learn something even now, honey, and I'm 14 years in, that I can still take and apply to my marriage and my family and to be able to continue to grow and within our unit. I love what you have accomplished. And I know it's only the beginning for you guys, but I just think that you are going to grow and encourage so many other families. And when you do get your little bundle of joy, we will have to check back in so we can say hi to the baby and to everything that God is continuing to do for you and your family. So, again, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you so much, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you so much. You guys be sure to check in. Her socials are listed, but if not, I will list them again so that you can check in and stay connected with her because she drops gems every day, not just today, but she drops gems every day. So be on the lookout for that on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. Did I miss one?
No, no, I think that
I
was it.
got
Yeah.
one? Okay. So thank you so much for joining, and I will give you back the rest of your Saturday. You have Thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful Saturday and a wonderful Father's Day. Thank you.
Thank you.